Hi, everybody. Welcome to Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity to meet business leaders and entrepreneurs from across the global business industry. Today, we've got the great pleasure to have with us a gentleman that's got over 13 years experience in renewable energy and has been running his own business now, the Energy Howell Group, for the last 3 years. Can you please welcome with me today? Yes, the one, but the only, Mr. Emanuel Howell. Emanuel, how are you today?
I'm great, thanks, Lee. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well indeed. And thank you so much for joining us on Revitalise Meets today. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
You're more than welcome. So let's start and kick things off in style. Could you really tell everybody who's watching and listening today a little bit about your business journey to date?
Yeah, well, I'll give you the condensed version because it's been a long journey, probably over the past 17 years or so. But as a snapshot, I started off in the property industry pre 2008, and for those in the industry, will surely remember what happened in 2008, and will understand why I took the change at that time. On the back of that, I then went into recruitment. Used to do a lot of recruitment for financial services across the US and Asia. And then in 2012, I made the move up to Scotland, rejigged my recruitment experience and started to focus more on construction and engineering. And yeah, again, we was doing that globally, for a lot of sort of oil and gas and major large scale construction companies. In 2014, I decided to take a step back from that and focus more on the renewables. So in the background of that, from my original property days, I'd always had an interest and a keen passion for renewables and integrating that into the journey. Again, during the recruitment stages, when I talk about construction and engineering, we had got involved in a number of wind farm construction, large solar fields, and there was always that renewable thread through what we did. But then I decided to take a step back and focus more on the smaller scale, I guess, focused on the domestic and small commercial industries, and try to focus it more locally and just keep it focused within the UK with a number of government incentives in place and the uptake of renewables being more and more popular. Because I mean, in 2008, when I mentioned heat pumps to people, I just got a blank stare. And yeah, we still get that occasionally now, but I think there's a lot more awareness around the benefits of renewables now. And as an industry, although I haven't been in it for around 13 years, I feel it's just getting started. So I decided to set up Energy Howell in 2018. I went through a number of accreditations to get the business set up right. And yeah, we've sort of grown from strength to strength over the past 3 years.
Brilliant. And we'll come on to a question in a moment, but I mean, what was the biggest change, do you think? What changes people's perception of, you talked about wind farms and renewable energy. What was real sort of a tipping point for you, Emanuel?
Well, my first experience with renewables was with solar, so solar PV. And yeah, it was actually really refreshing seeing what a simple change, what kind of long-term impact that can have, not only financially for a homeowner or a business owner in terms of running costs, but also looking at the economical and I guess the carbon impact of all the small changes like that, what they can have. And then they're really understanding, for those who've maybe come across it, we do have something called a carbon calculator. And that really, you can, if you just type it into Google, I'm sure you'll find it online. And that really looks at what the impact of the way things are being run now. And I think if you look at it in one aspect, the world will heat by 2 degrees in the next 7 years. And it's just things like that. It starts to put it into perspective and realize that these small things really add up to the bigger change.
Yeah. You sometimes forget about the smaller items that really make the biggest difference that's in there. And thank you for sharing that with us. But what's been your biggest achievement? Sort of like, have you had a challenge that you've overcome over the last so many years? And what was that challenge that you overcame? And what was the biggest achievement you've had in your business?
Well, I think I'll speak on a common challenge because most people listening or watching will understand. And it's the challenge of the past year and a bit. With when the pandemic first started, not knowing how we could go about business, if we could go about business, and what that meant for our future. But I think for me, I'd been pretty flat out up to then, literally 7 days a week, 12, 14-hour days. And when that happened, I was kind of sitting in the house thinking, what next? But it was some great time to reflect and start to reconfigure the business. And as I said, over the past year and a half, we've added 5 people to the headcount.
Right.
So yeah, we've definitely been growing on that side of it. And it's just being able to rejig and refocus where the business is. So we've pushed a lot more now into the new build industries and supporting, house builders, and then also a bigger push on the commercial and working with business owners, because, fundamentally we understand that they are the people probably been hit the hardest by this pandemic, because although everyone's been affected in their personal life, when you also have a business to deal with, you're being hit from both sides.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think it's great the way you've sort of like employed new people, because you've brought a new breadth of knowledge and experience into your business itself. So congratulations on really doing that. And I think what you mentioned there before has been to adapt to what's been happening over the last sort of 12 months or so. I mean, you have adapted your business to accommodate new experience, but also I think you've found your niche, if you don't mind me saying that. You found a niche that you can actually present out there. Do you feel like that's started to happen for you?
Yeah, it definitely has, because, for those who know me, know my nature. And yeah, many times I've been called the magpie because, I like to chase shiny objects. But yeah, it's understanding that, we just focus on where we want to be. As you said, employing the right skill sets into the business, because I realize, I don't know everything and I can't do everything. So it's understanding where my strengths lie, but also where I may be weaker at certain parts, and then, employing accordingly to be able to support that, so we can offer a better quality of service across the business.
Yeah, I think that's a great asset to have, having the right people in place and surrounding yourself with a strong team as well. So thanks for sharing that. Over the last 12 months, we briefly spoke about it earlier, and we've just spoke about it briefly there as well. But over the last 12 months, what's been the biggest changes? We talked about the team, but what's been many other changes that you've put in place to adapt your business to be stronger over the last 12 months?
Well, a few things. Processes is probably the key word, I would say, that's been fundamental to that. So we took a lot of time to really take a step back and understand what should be the full journey, and then make sure we had everything supporting that. Because what you find, especially for myself, coming from having doing this day in, day out in the industry for a number of years, certain things I take for granted, but also you actually start to realize, oh, I should be doing that, but I don't do that, or I don't do it as well as I thought I did. So it's really enabled us to take that time to step back and sort of build the business and look at on a much longer term view. So now we're looking at business based on 3 and 5 and 10 years ahead of time, and planning where the business is going over that, and looking at a much bigger growth. Whereas before it was you were lucky if you're looking at it month by month, because it was really just me in the business.
So planning ahead's been a big adaptation for yourselves, and looking not just, as you said, not the instantaneous month by month, but the sort of 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. What's been the biggest process you've put in place in your business? What would be the one that you could share with everybody?
Well, I think it's the defining the sales and the customer journey. So yeah, I wouldn't say it's a sales process, because it's more a customer journey, because we don't see ourselves as a business who's focused purely on sales. With everything, any inquiry we get, we say, okay, it's great that you think you want this product, but let us understand what you're trying to achieve, and then we'll work backwards at what's feasible, and then we'll give you what we feel are the best solutions based on our experience. And that's how adapting it to that way. Whereas before, we just focused purely on trying to sell a product, but now it's more about the relationship and what the customer wants to achieve at the end of it. Because understandably, a lot of customers feel that, for example, heating is the issue they need to solve. But actually, when we start to look into it, there could be a number of other factors. Or if something's going to change in their journey in a year or two's time, the solution for today might become redundant in 2 years. So you want to make sure you're prepared and future-proofing what you're doing. And I think just, employing that sort of vision. So yeah, when you speak of, I guess, the biggest change, it was focusing on that kind of vision and culture within the business. because I'm realizing as the business grows, everyone isn't going to be me, but we need to have a commonality across the business so the customers are always getting the same experience.
And I think it's really important that you identify the customer journey, like I mentioned there before, having an understanding of their needs and wants. So you're asking those qualifying questions, because it's right what you say. It's sometimes you find that it's not just that one item that they're looking for. There's other areas that you can actually support and help them with when you've been asking those questions. And especially now, I think you've now got a global coverage. So you could speak to anybody across the globe, really, couldn't you, Emanuel?
Yeah, because yes, I'm glad you touched on that, because although I've got a number of connections in different countries across the world, and although Energy How directly is only going to be focused on the UK, just from an install capacity, a few other businesses within the group can support on different areas. So we do IT training over in the US through Renewable Prog US. We also do service accommodation at the moment, just in UK, but as of anything, world domination is always the key. So we've got rest, work, play. So we look after anything from staycations to contractor needs, mainly on a short-term basis. When we say short-term, although we can do longer term, it's holiday lets, so service accommodation as such.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, you've got plenty going on there that'll keep you busy for many years to come, and I think for your team as well. If everybody's watching and listening now and they're wanting to find out the top 3 golden tips that will come about renewable energy, what would you say are your top 3 golden tips of advice for people looking at renewable energy, either for business or for personal?
Well, interesting question, actually, because I think for anyone looking at it right now, I would always say now is the time. There are a number of incentives in place for domestic customers, through Home Energy Scotland, for people living in Scotland, and there are other alternatives for people living south of the border as well. For businesses, you do have, again, in Scotland, you have Zero Waste Scotland, and again, you have their counterparts across that, which are supporting businesses. They have this new super allowance where people invest into renewables for businesses. You can get up to 130% in capital allowances of the initial investment. So I think, partnering together all these incentives, it makes it a lot more accessible. And actually, we all realize the government has set their targets, and efficiency is going to become mandatory at some point. So why not get in while there's an incentive, rather than being stuck later on and just being forced to do something? And I think the final part, is probably looking into a number of our taglines, because one of the key ones we use is saying, don't be foolish. So we need to plan ahead. Another one people hear is, we'll say, let us show you energy how it should be. So you can rest assured that you've got the peace of mind that you have somebody or a company who can look after your needs and really help you understand it. Because we do understand, unfortunately, it's not for everybody. There are a number of factors which can play into why it's not feasible for somebody, but we will advise if it's not, rather than try to push. And the final one, which we always say, let's look after the planet, isn't Uranus. So we have to make sure that we look after our planet, because, as I mentioned, the carbon factor as well, it is having an impact.
Yeah, it's a massive, and thank you for sharing that. I think many people are more importantly now looking at it in more detail from a personal perspective and also a business perspective. So thank you for sharing those top 3 tips. Now, we talk about self-reflection and we talk about the knowledge that we're learning from others. Would you mind sharing with everybody a bit from your self-reflection? I know you take a lot of personal development time for yourself in books, knowledge courses, etc. What would you share with everybody today? What have you learned or gained in the last 12 months in self-reflection?
Well, again, I think going on a common thread that everybody will understand, I think we all realize no matter how many years you've been in business, no matter how many businesses you've had, none of us knew it all. Because I can guarantee you nobody was prepared for what the past year has brought. So it's always being willing to learn. And actually, some of my biggest learnings have came from people who have maybe set up their first business just during the pandemic. And I think the reason being is that for them, they're just setting up a business and this is the only way they know. So unfortunately, people like myself who've had business in what we used to call a normal world, things are very different. And what used to be easy for us to set up a business has now become a lot more challenging. So yeah, it's the willingness, I think, to learn from everyone and anyone, and always looking at every situation and seeing what you can take from it to make every interaction worthwhile and meaningful.
Yeah,
which is important.
We've talked about this prior to coming on today. What's been your book of the month that you read at the moment or listening to? What's been your choice?
Get me thinking now. Most recently, probably I've been reading through a lot of the Brad Sugar series.
Okay.
And actually, instant systems. Really, so I know we touched on earlier about setting up a lot of the processes. Yeah, and I guess it's been eye-opening for me, because although I've ran businesses and a number of them have been successful, I have always been focused more on the sales side, because that's what I enjoy. And when it comes to the admin and a lot of the stuff that's not so glamorous but essential, I've not enjoyed it. But looking at that and seeing how you can put systems in place to really make that a smoother journey, and how it has a bigger impact on the shiny side of it, which I do enjoy. I think it's been refreshing and eye-opening to really just look at how I want to set the business. And a lot of it I've sort of implemented into my plan, as I said, over the coming years.
It's great though, you hear about all these books, and especially like the Brad Sugar series, and you look at the systems and processes that you put into place, the mechanics, if you want to call it, the mechanics of your business, making sure it's getting fine-tuned. But there's many people out there don't look at their systems and processes. They literally just go and do it, and then they look at the systems and processes later on to adapt them whilst they got going. So a great recommendation. Thank you for sharing that.
And I have to say, I was one of those people.
Were you really?
So one tip of advice to anyone thinking about starting a business: get your systems first. Because I didn't start putting systems into Energy How until late 2019, and having sort of 18 months under the belt at that point, it was a lot harder than if you're just starting from scratch.
Yeah, it's a really good point, that one, especially when you look at hindsight and you go, oh, I wish I could have put that in at the beginning when it started, how much difference it would be to us right now. So another great suggestion, Emanuel, and thank you for being honest with that as well. Thanks very much. With everything you shared today, thank you so much for sharing your business journey and your challenges and your achievements, and what's next for Emanuel Howell and the Energy How team. What's around the next door of opportunity for you?
Yeah, well, the growth is continuous. I mean, we're currently looking to take on another 2 or 3 people in the coming months, and we'll likely probably grow complete team headcount to around 15 into next year. So I want to start taking more of a step back, and just putting a bit more focus into the property side. And I have a few other ventures which will be coming online shortly, and I'm sure we'll make everyone aware with some retail opportunities. So that's that. And for me, fundamentally, the reason I'm sure many of us do it, it's about family. So and that's the key thing. We have our 3rd child on the way, so it's having much time to juggle everything is going to be short. So I want to have more family time and get more back now.
Well,
so I think that's what's next.
Good luck with the next Emanuel Howell edition, or the Howell family edition as well, and looking forward to seeing that happen in the next few weeks. Is it? We've
done 3.5 weeks now.
Sooner before you even know it, and they'll be about 20 or 30 years old before you know it as well. The time will just go like that, or fly by.
I'm sure.
For everyone who's watching and who's been listening to us today, and they've heard some great information, some great little tips, some great information about your business, understanding how it works and how you're offering it to many people on a global platform. How can they make contact with you, Emanuel? What's the best route to make the contact and organize that conversation?
Well, the best form of contact for people who just want maybe a bit more information, firstly, you can visit our website, which is energyhowuk.com. Anybody who wants to get in contact, I'm sure we can send out a link for the digital business card as well, courtesy of Lee here. But the best way is probably to contact the office, so 0800 772-0131. And that's purely because, unfortunately, I don't answer my mobile as often as I should. Just the way the days are now and the new online format, it's generally during the day the mobile's on silent. So yeah, and then if you want to drop me an email, you can reach me at Emanuel@energyhowuk.com.
Brilliant, Emanuel. Thank you so much. And for everybody who's watching and listening today, I would highly recommend, as always, to reach out to Emanuel, reach out to his team, organize that virtual coffee and find out about the wonderful work that he's doing in renewable energy and other areas from work, rest and play, like we mentioned before there as well. So organize the call, reach out to Emanuel, reach out to his team, organize the conversation and start connecting and finding out more about each other. Emanuel, thank you so much for your time today. It's been a pleasure to welcome you back to Revitalise Meets, to the podcast series now. And I wish you all the very best for the future, not just in business, but also with the family at the same time as well.
Thanks, Lee. And the same to yourself. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, never, always a pleasure, never a chore. So thanks very much, Emanuel. And thank you to you all for watching and listening to us today. And stay tuned for more Revitalise Meets, where I get the opportunity, as always, to be meeting business leaders and business entrepreneurs from across the global business stage. As always, stay healthy, keep well, and remember, keep connecting. Take care, everybody. Speak to you all again very soon. Bye-bye for now.